Welcome back to Become a Calm Mama. I'm your host. I'm Darlene Childress. I am a life and parenting coach. And for the last few weeks on the podcast, we've been in a series that I'm calling How to Heal. And really what I've done is walked you through a hierarchy of healing. And what I mean by hierarchy is that it's like a pyramid where you have a foundation, and then once you have that part of the pyramid built, you add to the next part going up and up and up. So at the foundation of this hierarchy, I've titled that bit Radical Self-Love. And really everything that we do when we are on a healing journey needs to be anchored in this feeling of self-love. From that place of radical self-love, we move up towards radical self-trust. And if we love ourselves and we trust ourselves, then we're more willing to take this journey into healing. From that place of love and trust where we feel really safe with ourselves, then we take that next step, which is being really honest with ourselves, radical honesty, taking a look at what's true and what's not true. And in that relationship with ourselves, we're also doing that fourth part, which is radical listening. So you're building this beautiful relationship with yourself where you can kind of handle anything that comes up in your life, any pain, any discomfort, anything that's going on. If you have these foundational principles of love, trust, honesty, and listening within yourself, you will be able to move through this healing journey and on this healing process with a lot more ease. The last part of this series is going to talk about radical action. And what I think a lot of times we do is we go to taking steps forward, like, okay, I don't want to live this way. I don't want to drink like this. I don't want to shop like this. I don't want to eat like this. I don't want to act this way with my kids. And so we just make kind of an action step item list or whatever, a checklist or a list of rules. And we don't end up making as much progress as we wanted to. And that's a lot of times because the actions are rooted in shame, in guilt, in buffering, trying to avoid pain, not being honest with ourselves. And then we end up discouraged and we give up and we don't see the result. And we're like, well, I must not be good at this. I must not be good at healing or taking control of my life. Really, that failure of your actions is my theory is that you're not rooted deep enough into that feeling of loving yourself, trusting yourself, being honest with yourself, listening to yourself, and then today talking about accepting, then taking action. So all of these different principles build upon each other, and the stronger your foundation of self-love, the easier it is to trust yourself, the easier then it is to be honest with yourself, the easier it is to listen to yourself, to take action, to accept what's going on, and then to take action. This hierarchy of healing, this is my attempt at trying to make a process of what it looks like to heal. And when you practice self-love and self-trust and listen to yourself and be honest with yourself and try to accept the circumstances, the actions are going to be really easy. You're going to have a lot of clarity about what to do to change your life. Even if you are struggling with this series and you're getting a little bit in the weeds and you're confused, just go back to love. Just go back to listening to yourself, being honest with yourself, and loving yourself through whatever you discover. Whatever pain you find, give yourself a lot of love and soothing. Tell yourself you can handle it. Whatever discomfort you find, just keep going back to those principles and you will make progress. So today I want to talk about part 5, which is this concept of radical acceptance. And when we are in a place of that love and that trust, and we've listened to ourselves and we've been honest with ourselves, we are able to then look at maybe some truths that are happening in our life, taking a look at some facts, taking a look at some pain. Acceptance is this idea that you are okay with what's happening in the present moment without losing yourself in judgments of whether this moment is good or bad. This behavior is good or bad. I am good or bad. This traffic is good or bad. This messy house is good or bad. A lot of times we are making judgments and we decide we can accept something if it's good. If we decide it's bad, then we resist it and we try to change it, fix it, change it, stop it, solve it in our lives, and we don't make the progress with that action that I want to teach you next week, we're not taking aligned, intentional action because we're not in true acceptance. Acceptance really is being okay, being present in right now in this moment and saying, this is the way things are right now, and that's okay. The faster you accept what is currently true, the easier it will be for your nervous system to calm down and to problem solve. It will be easier for you to show compassion to yourself or to someone else if you can take a pause and acknowledge what is happening. Either what's happening in your circumstances, what's happening in your feelings, what other people are doing, or things about yourself, how you're behaving. So I'm going to break it down a little bit more, and then I'm going to give you at the end of the episode some steps that you can take to practice radical acceptance. I love this quote from The Princess Bride, where the Dread Pirate Roberts, who's actually Wesley, if you've not seen the movie, go see it. But anyway, I've probably seen it like 50 times. He says in the movie, "Life is pain, Highness. Anyone who says differently is selling something." And I've thought about this many, many times in my life when something is difficult in my life, when I'm experiencing pain or hardship or going through something or remembering something from the past or whatever it is that I'm kind of struggling with, I will remember that life is pain. That I talked about this in the 3 unavoidable aspects of parenting, that podcast episode, where really pain and uncertainty and constant work are the things that are unavoidable aspects of life. So pain is inevitable, but like the Buddhist saying, pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. The faster we get to going, okay, this is painful, or oh, this is hard, or this is uncomfortable, or this is happening and I don't like it, or this is happening and I wish it wasn't, or whatever we need to say. Sure, you can wish it wasn't happening, but it is happening. Let me give you a very simple example of traffic. Right now, I live in Los Angeles and the Pacific Coast Highway is closed indefinitely because of the terrible fires. And that means that a lot of people who took that route now take a different route, and it's called the 101. So at this point in Los Angeles, to cross from my part of town towards the west side of town, you have to go along the 101 and everybody is on that road. And it is really different than it used to be. Traffic is much worse. It's almost like it was before the pandemic. Like it's just really, really challenging. And people are frustrated and overwhelmed by it. But resisting it, being angry for that hour drive is suffering. So the pain is just that slog, right? It's uncomfortable. We don't want to be in the car that long. We don't want to give that much time of our lives to travel. We don't want any of it, right? But when we are really in our feelings about it and fighting it, that's resistance, that's suffering. We're adding more pain to the moment. Or you can just accept it like, okay, now I know that this is the situation in Los Angeles. I need to plan for it and take different actions. And this is just what it is. That thing that you see in other people that seem to be okay when things are chaotic, who seem to have peace, who seem to just go with the flow. The reason why they're able to do that is because they're literally going with the flow. If this is the way it is, I'm going to accept it and move forward in this pattern, in this reality. That thing that people talk about being present, it really means accepting reality exactly as it is in this moment. So that could be your circumstances, traffic, like I said, your kids getting sick. I remember feeling so upset if I had plans for the day and, or meetings or something like that. And then my kids were sick or I had to take them to the doctor or, even dumb stuff like they're making you late because you're about to go in the car and they poop, right? Well, that's just what's happening. You're already in that next moment. Reality is reality. Your kid is sick. Your kid has made you late. There is traffic. Your kids are doing Jack in the Box tonight, right? Their bedtime's going late. There are facts. And then there's our editorializing of the fact, right? What we make that fact mean. a lot of times we make that mean something that hurts us, that causes us more pain, more discomfort, more emotional frustration, and is entirely unnecessary. I think about plans changing and how for so many years I had a lot of trouble when plans changed because I felt out of control. I felt all my work was going to be for nothing, like whatever I had planned to do. I didn't believe in myself that I could handle if I didn't anticipate what was going on. I would then get defensive. I would blame. I would get frustrated. I might be short with my kids or short with the person, like rude to the person who told me like the store is closed or whatever the thing is. I would find myself really overwhelmed in these moments. And it's because I did not have enough self-trust and I didn't believe that I could handle all of the hard things. I didn't know in my own ability to pivot. My feelings would overwhelm me to such a high degree that I wouldn't be able to reset my nervous system and think and pivot and make a new plan. But the more I have practiced this radical self-love and radical self-trust and listening to myself and soothing myself, I'm much better at accepting anything that comes my way. I don't like the thing that comes my way, but I'm able to accept it, not fight it, and then I take that radical action. So we have our circumstances that come up, and those are things that we can practice accepting. There's also in that circumstances other people's behavior. You think about your husband or your partner committing to doing something, for the family, like I've got dinner tonight, or I'll pick up while you're at the market, or whatever they say. And then you get back and they haven't done it. And, that's their behavior. Or maybe your partner is going through some sort of mental health issue, or they're struggling, or your in-laws treat you a certain way, or you're relationally, right? We can accept that people are doing the behaviors that they're doing. They're acting the way that they're acting. So your children are behaving the way that they behave. You can just accept that. It doesn't mean that you're not going to take action, but the faster that you go to the point of saying, this kid is having a big feeling cycle. Okay, so this is my new reality. I thought we were going to bed, but now we're in the middle of the hallway and someone is kicking and screaming on the ground. You can go to that place where you accept this is what's happening right now. Then you give yourself some compassion if you need to. Gosh, this is hard. I really didn't like this. I didn't anticipate this happening. You can give a little bit of soothing and then switch out to that. Okay, well, what's next? What's the next right thing? Moving from acceptance to action. Mel Robbins has been talking a lot about this let them theory. And let them theory is really about radical acceptance. It's really about being able to look at somebody else's behavior and accepting it exactly as it is, as a truth, as a reality. Like that's how they're behaving. You can let them behave that way. You can accept it. Now with parenting, it gets tricky, right? Because our responsibility to our kids is also to teach them better ways to behave, better ways to act, better ways to manage their feelings, better ways to get their needs met and demonstrate their emotions. And so we do have to take action, right? Little kids, don't let them not ever brush their teeth. Like that's complicated. But in the moment, when you practice acceptance, like, wow, this kid is really resisting their teeth getting brushed. Okay. So it's just this mental exercise of looking at the situation, narrating it as true and as factual, and accepting it. Then from that acceptance, you can figure out whether you need to take action or not. So we have all of these circumstances we're learning to accept. We have other people's behavior that we're learning to accept. We also have ourself that we are learning to accept. Like I've been saying for the last maybe 18 months, almost like a flippant joke, but it's like a practice for me of I get to be me. I'll say to my husband when he's like rolling his eyes about something like, oh, I really wanted to wear my beanie. So I'm going to stop. I'm going to go get my beanie and I'm going to come downstairs and then we'll walk. And he's like, right? I like, well, I get to be me. That's what I say. It's not just about like what I'm wearing. It's just anything where I want to say, I get to be me. I get to love and accept myself exactly as I am right now. When I accept my idiosyncrasies, my neuroses, my behavior, my desires, my wants, my frustrations, when I embrace all the different parts of me and I become a friend of those parts and I accept those parts unconditionally, I'm so much more likely to make shifts with love and compassion, with generosity, with grace, if I'm in that place of acceptance of myself. There are going to be difficult aspects of your personality or a behavior that you're doing that you want to change. That's okay. But at your core, you want to accept yourself and accept the truth about where you're at right now and who you're showing up as. So when I talk in my programs, like I have this concept called Mad Mom Syndrome. And it's like, yeah, okay, I'm a mad mom right now. That's okay. I can change that, but this is where I'm at. We need to be really honest. That's why radical honesty and radical listening is really important, to find out who we are right now. What are we struggling with? And accepting ourselves. How this is showing up for me right now is in my weight, right? Because I've aged a bit and I have had a struggle with eating disorders in the past, and I'm trying to figure out, how do I accept my current body and my current shape and my current weight, while also still taking radical action that's not from a place of pain and self-loathing and shame and meanness. I don't want to hurt myself anymore. That's a commitment. I can trust myself. I love myself. I don't want to hurt myself. But I can also see if I start to count macros or make rules, like you have to go to the gym every day, or you have to, like, if I start to create action plans and they're not coming from a place of love and acceptance, I'm hurting myself. So it can be quite nuanced when you take those actions. We need to always look back and go, well, where's this coming from? Why am I doing this behavior? Why now? Why in this way? But it starts with our acceptance. So accepting your body, accepting your mental health, accepting your personality. If you're a quiet person who likes to spend a lot of time alone, great. Accept that about yourself. Love that part of yourself. Take really good care of her. If you're a person who really likes having a lot of friends and you like being on the go, then that's also great. You don't need to look at others and compare yourself to them and decide, well, that's the right way to be a mom. That's the right way to be a woman. That's the right way to be a friend. That's the right way to be a daughter. Like all of these areas of our lives that we don't feel comfortable within ourselves. And then we look to the world or we look to our social groups and we go, okay, how am I supposed to act? How am I supposed to be? Well, let's just accept you as you are right now. And then you can take action if you want. But again, coming from this place of true love, true trust, true acceptance. The other area I see we struggle with accepting ourselves or accepting things. So we have like our circumstances, we have others' behaviors, we have ourselves. And a big thing is our own emotions. There's this clever phrase of what we feel, we can heal. And it really is true that when we are able to accept a circumstance as it is, and we allow ourselves, we're really honest with ourselves about how we think and feel about that thing, then we are more open to accepting our emotions. Like you are going to feel angry. You are going to feel jealous. You're going to feel greed. You're going to feel impatient. You're going to feel disappointment. You're going to feel hurt. You're going to feel loss and grief. These are inevitable. Life is pain, Highness, right? Anybody who says differently is selling you something. You are going to have all sorts of different emotions. I love this quote from Loving Kindness by Sharon Salzberg. I've referred to this book many times in this series, but she says, pain is not a sign of things gone wrong. Our lives are actually a constant succession of pleasure and pain. Getting what we want and then losing it. We experience pleasure and pain, gain and loss, praise and blame, fame and disrepute, constantly changing out of our control. This is what the world is naturally providing, and still we can be at peace. The more you accept that there are going to be difficult circumstances in your life. There's going to be things that are going to create emotion in you. The more that you are aware and you don't resist that pain, but you kind of allow it to flow through you, then the feelings pass. They're like the weather. They're like clouds, right? There's a cloudy sky, and then beyond that is a blue sky. And the clouds move over the sky, and they're like weather, and they keep moving. Spring is always coming. This episode comes out on spring, the first day of spring. And it's like the winter ends and spring comes. Seasons in our life that are painful will end, and new wonderful moments will come. That is the nature of this experience of being human on the earth. So the more you accept your feelings and you allow them to flow through you, and you acknowledge those feelings and you let them breathe, what every feeling wants is to be felt, right? What does one do with sadness? You just invite it in, and you invite it for a cup of tea. You say, "Hi, sadness. Where have you been? How you doing?" And then you let it pass. When we resist our feelings, when we resist ourselves, when we resist our experience, we create suffering. That struggle is about when we believe that something should not be the way it is, when we're fighting reality. And we have these behaviors that we do that help us avoid reality, right? We detach, we deny, we blame. Now, this resistance, it comes from a natural desire to be safe. We want to feel like we have control. We want to feel safe. We want to feel agency. We want to be able to influence our world. And we don't want to feel pain. Like, just straight up, we don't like it. It's awful. And so we do stuff, we buffer, we create distance from ourselves and the pain through either avoiding reality. In Calm Mama Confessions, I talk about how I used drugs and alcohol and sex to avoid my pain as a young woman, and that eventually the pain caught up to me and I had to stop doing those things. I had to create a period of abstinence so that I could no longer have those avenues to avoid my pain, and I had to take a look at it. And yeah, it was really, really hard. And eventually that season passed and it wasn't as hard. And so buffering can be this thing that we do to create distance. Now, some buffering is fine, some distraction. If you try to embrace every painful moment, or like I remember when my sister died, like the grief is kind of a relentless series of waves that just keeps coming and keeps coming and keeps coming. And there are definite times where if you kept doing that, you would drown, right? You would not be able to be strong enough. And so, yeah, having a distraction, watching a funny movie, or, whatever it is you do, like there's ways that we can buffer with health and wellness, like going on to take a bath or going for a walk in nature, or having a nice conversation with a friend. Or some people have a drink or buy something, right? I don't want to judge your strategies. That's what radical acceptance is about, is like, well, this is where you're at. You're buffering. Great. No problem. Whatever you're doing, we just want to be honest about it. And with full love and full trust that you can switch your behavior whenever you need to. We've talked about buffering on the podcast. Another way that I see that we resist the moment where we aren't in radical acceptance is through people pleasing. And I wanted to talk about this for a few minutes because I think sometimes we do things for others so that we can feel better, safe, or more loved, or to feel, like we're like hyper control. Like I'm going to do this laundry and then I'll get an attaboy and then I'll feel better and I'll feel loved and I'll feel safe. And in some ways, people-pleasing behaviors are a form of buffering. It's a form of distancing myself from my pain, doing an action so that I can get relief from the pain. So just be onto yourself. If you find yourself doing a lot of things for others, that might be your avoidant tactic to avoid looking at your own pain. Another way that we resist is procrastination, just putting our head in the sand, numbing out, not paying attention, not taking any action, right? We can sometimes become hyper aroused and like hyper action, and then other times hypo aroused, hypo action. We don't do anything. We get stuck. We get stuck in a rut. We feel really hopeless. Again, acceptance is our pathway out. Another reason why I think it can be challenging for someone to practice radical acceptance is this fear that if I accept what's happening, then I am giving up. I've been defeated. I'm implying that I don't care, that I am powerless, that it's like a fatalistic viewpoint. Like, well, if you can't beat them, join them. And it's like, that is a strategy that people use to avoid discomfort. And I'm not talking about acceptance as a way of excusing yourself from responsibility or giving up or giving in or being a victim or losing agency or implying defeat in any way. Acceptance is actually being really radically honest with yourself about what is true and then saying, okay, this is how it is right now. Then I can take action if I'm from that clear-headed space. But if we are, giving up and giving in as a way to release ourselves from pain and discomfort, that's not acceptance. Acceptance is being willing to be honest and look at the circumstance and how we think and feel about it and being just radically honest about it. All right, so here are kind of some steps. I like to break things down. I like to make steps. I like to create processes. It helps my brain. Like, what am I supposed to be doing to accept something, right? So the first thing is the mantra for this week is this is the way things are right now, and that's okay. So just, if that's your only takeaway from this episode, that's great. This is the way things are right now, and that's okay. So just listen to that mantra. Now, I've broken down radical acceptance into 4 steps or 4 parts. And the first is acknowledge the facts. So acknowledge. The next is accept the facts. The third is attune to your feelings. And 4 is action. So acknowledge, accept, attune, act. I tried to make them all start with letter A so that we could remember them. So first is acknowledging the facts. There is traffic. That's a fact, right? My flight is delayed. My kid is sick. I got fired. My mom died. There's a flood in my house. Whatever is happening, what are the facts? The more clear you can be about the facts and not your thoughts about the facts or your feelings about the facts, the easier it will be for you to accept the facts. You're trying to figure out what's actually happening without your judgment of it, without all your thoughts and feelings about it. Like, what's the circumstance? Like, when I was able to be really honest, like, I was sexually abused as a child. My dad abandoned my family. My mom had untreated depression for most of my childhood. Like, being able to say the thing that happened to me as a fact is very helpful, because then I can figure out how I want to think and feel about that fact. So the circumstance is something that we want to acknowledge. And it helps you get some clarity on what is true and what are you making the thing mean, giving you some distance. So acknowledge the facts. Accept the facts. So acknowledge what is happening and then accept it. This is happening. This thing happened. When you do that, like I said, it makes space for new thoughts and feelings because you're taking out your editorializing. You're taking out the meaning that you're assigning it. Like, my kid didn't get invited to the birthday party. Okay, that's the fact. Now, the thing you make that mean, oh, my kid is a big problem. Kids don't like my kid. My kid's going to be a loser. There's something wrong with my kid. Those are all your thoughts. And then those create feelings. Insecurity. And then from that insecure place, then you're taking action. Maybe you check your kid out. You're like, well, forget these kids, and you don't keep trying, or you over try or whatever. I don't want you to come from a place of insecurity. I want you to make decisions and take action from a place of confidence and radical self-trust. So we acknowledge the facts, we accept the facts, and this helps us get some clarity, some perspective. And then attune. So what do I mean by that? Healing begins when you have an open, compassionate acknowledgement of the unpleasant aspects of your life. So like I said, there are facts that are true. Here are the facts. This is what's happening. And I feel badly about it. So we need to have some attunement. Does that mean soothing yourself? Does that mean processing that negative emotion, allowing for it, doing that radical honesty, radical listening, radical love? In the acceptance process, you're going to go back and use all those other tools of self-love, self-trust, honesty, and listening. And you're going to give room to your thoughts and feelings and to the reality that you're experiencing, and attune to yourself. I've talked about attunement on this podcast. You can go back to Google, just search attunement and you'll see those episodes. And we talk about attuning with our kids, catching their feelings. Now, this is you attuning to yourself. And then action, taking positive intentional action, which I'm going to talk about next week. But what you're doing in that action is you're tapping into your internal wisdom, your creativity. Instead of taking action from fear and anger and insecurity and resistance, we're taking action from a deep place of acceptance and love and trust. How to make this process easier of acknowledge, accept, attune, and act is by practicing self-love. Never giving away that piece, that foundational piece of this hierarchy of healing. We always need to be practicing self-love, going back to ourselves and saying, girl, you're okay. I love you. You're worthy. You're good. You're amazing. You've got it. You've overcome so many things. And that is coupled with self-trust. So if I deeply believe that I can handle anything because I've handled a lot in the past, and I look at my track record, I look at all the things that I've overcome, and you can too. Look at all the things that you have overcome, all the things that you used to not know how to do that you know how to do now. You used to not know how to be a mom, and now you are one. Maybe you don't always feel like you know how to be one, but you do. You do it. You're probably pretty good at it. So you've learned lots of things. You've overcome lots of pain. You've overcome heartbreak. You've overcome loss. You've overcome change. There have been circumstances in your life that have been painful. I know that's true because it's inevitable. It's true for everybody. And you're still standing. You're still listening to podcasts. You're still here. So I also know that you know how to overcome stuff. And so you can trust yourself. So we're always going back to that self-love and that self-trust. So some journal prompts for you are, what are the facts? And then what are my thoughts about these facts? So if you really do that radical honesty, radical listening is really kind of breaking it down. Here are the facts, but what am I making the situation mean? What are my feelings about it? How do I behave when I'm thinking and feeling this way? Like when I'm thinking, like my kid called me a name. So my kid said, I hate you, right? That's a fact. They said that. Now I can make that mean they don't love me. I'm a bad mom. I've done something wrong. There's something wrong with my kid. People think I'm a bad mom. Like you can have all these thoughts and then you have all these feelings, discouragement, hopelessness, resentment, anger, frustration, overwhelm, disempowerment. So then from those feelings, how do you act? How do you treat yourself? How do you treat your kid? How do you treat future you? How do you treat past you? When you're in these thoughts and feelings, if they're not serving you, you can decide to get rid of them. So then we have to ask, does this way of thinking, feeling, and acting serve me or not? And taking a look at, does it or does it not? Now, don't think you have to do every single thing I just said like all at once. All I want you to do is really just start to think about the truth that there are hard things in life, and that the faster you accept those things as true, as reality, the less you resist those things, the faster you will be able to take that next right step, to take that next right action, which is what I'm going to talk about in next week's episode, all about radical action. And that will wrap up this series on the How to Heal series. Okay, so I want to leave you with this mantra. This is the way things are right now, and that's okay. Whatever's hard in your life, whatever's going on, whatever is scaring you, whatever is making you angry, whatever is, worrying you or overwhelming you, think about what are the facts and then accept this is the way things are right now, and that's okay. And if you need a little extra self-love, you need a little self-soothing, give it to yourself. Take excellent care of yourself, Mama, and I will talk to you next week. Hey, Mama, if you enjoyed this podcast episode, I want to encourage you to do two things. The first is go to my website, calmmamacoaching.com, and get a copy of the Stop Yelling cheat sheet. You'll get a step-by-step breakdown of the most important tool I teach, which is the pause break. And you'll also get 40 ideas to reset your body and balance your nervous system so you don't have to yell at your kids. You can get a copy of that, again, at my website, calmmamacoaching.com/stop yelling. The other thing I'd love for you to do is go to Apple Podcasts and rate and review this podcast so that other moms can discover empowering and helpful, practical parenting strategies, just like you did today. Thanks so much for listening to the podcast. It means a lot to be in your ear every week and to support you on your parenting journey.